Sir Paul McCartney, thank you for joining us on Sky News.
You're welcome.
How difficult is it for you, having written so many successful songs, to come up with something new?
It's not difficult to come up with something new. To come up with something new that's good is difficult because you're stacking them against the stuff you've done. But you've got to just forget that. You know, if you're going to, I love writing songs, so I just have to say, don't even try and better the old ones. You know, just get on with it. So I do, but I love doing it so much that I can't stop.
Don't look at me, I can't deny the truth. It's plain to see, don't look at me.
It's 50 years since the Beatles went to #1 in the United States. I mean, that seems incredible. When we look at bands like One Direction, they're being compared and talked about as being the new Beatles. Do you think there's any comparison there?
I always think it's a little bit unfortunate when you call the new Beatles. It can be the kiss of death because people expect you to live up to what we did, and we did what we did in a particular period in time, which was very different to now, obviously. So it was, I don't know whether it was easier to be a wild success, but it was different. But I think these bands are great. I like One Direction. You know, I think, you know, they're young, beautiful boys, and that's the big attraction. But they can sing, they make good records, you know. So I think that's what I would see in common, was that, you know, girls love them, and you can fantasize that you're going to marry them, or whatever.
And they do have a huge fan base, don't they? When we look at things like their effect on social media, massive fans on there. Sometimes do you feel it gets out of control? We hear about these sort of hate campaigns that the fans launch. You know, we see these pop stars rowing. Is there a danger from social media, do you think, from that point of view?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, you can say anything you want, you know, and it gets heard. But I'm not sure they're going to worry about that. They're having too much success to worry about that, you know. There's always, with all the good stuff, there's always a little bit of bad comes along with it, you know. But I like them, you know. I think there's a lot of good music in the pop area now, you know. I think there's a lot of good people making good records.
And who for you stands out in that case at the moment?
In that area, Katy Perry, Justin Timberlake, Bruno Mars. I mean, I think, you know, for what it is, I think they're really good records. Mind you, I've got a 10-year-old girl, so we listen to that kind of stuff, you know.
When we look at acts like Miley, Cyrus, for example, when you see some of her videos that are quite explicit, would you let your daughter watch things like that?
You know what? I don't think it was explicit at all. You couldn't see anything. I mean, I watched it just as an experiment to check. Now, you know, obviously you look at it and you go, well, what's everyone shouting about? I mean, she's a young girl. She's like only 20 or something. She's just having a go. Someone said to me, the world that a lot of those people like Miley live in is noise. It's all noise. And they've got to get above the noise. So they've got to do something. So you will see people doing something that's sort of, I think it was only mildly shocking. I mean, you know, she's dancing with Robin Thicke on the awards. So what? Come on. We've seen worse than that.
About the album then, you had, I know, a series of producers that you're interested in working with, and in the end, you liked all of them, so you ended up working with all of them, didn't you?
Yeah, I was going to look at 4 producers whose work I liked and who were doing good work currently. I was just going to maybe do 1 track with each one and choose one of them and then finish the whole album with that person. But I liked them all. And so I ended up working with them all. They all had very different styles. So it was kind of exciting. And it was nice to go from one to another one and you'd get a completely different perspective on a song.
Don't look at me, it's way too soon to see what's gonna be. Don't look at me. All my life, I never knew what I could be, what I could do.
When you look at the situation for people in Liverpool at the moment, 1 in 3 people there don't have a job. Do you worry that not enough has changed for people who live in places like Liverpool?
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool's a lot better than it used to be. You know, it really was one of the sort of, it was like the bottom of the list of places in England for unemployment and for poverty. So, and it certainly has come up a lot. You know, I've seen great improvements. You know, what can you do? I don't know what you do. I'm not a politician, thank goodness.
If you hadn't have been a singer, though, what would your future have been growing up as you did there in Liverpool as a
I
young
had a
man?
couple of jobs, one of which I was very loath to leave, my last job. But John and George were kind of over the wall in the yard where I worked. I worked in a factory called Massey and Coggins, and I was coil winding. So that was my future. But they came over, you know, one of the mates said, this couple of lads want to talk to you. They said, we've got a gig, the Cavern. I said, oh, I'm not sure, you know, I've got a career here. But luckily, yeah, so I don't know what I would have been. Who knows?
Who knows? How different things could have been.
Yeah.
So, Paul McCartney, thank you very much for talking to us today.
You're very
Thank you.
welcome.